So I think we're ready to start.
Nice crowd.
Yeah, hi Frank.
Hi Frank, how was the
recovery? You doing good?
Yeah.
Yeah, doing okay.
All right.
Good. Everybody
Thank you.
mute yourself, please. So welcome to Faith+Works. It's great to see everybody. It's really nice to see so many people here. I've been doing a research project on the church, going back to the 1940s, actually. So I've been looking through some old notes and old membership rolls. And it's wonderful to see this tradition of this church congregation for social activism, for being welcoming. I was just reading something that in the 1940s, the church was suspected of being a hotbed of communism. That's in the minutes. So this church was always a feisty, fiery place, which I think is one thing that's kept us going. Anyway, so this is Faith+Works. We carry on the work of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Orange of Essex County, which goes back to the 1890s, a really long time. We also carry on the work of the HUUB, which Doug will talk about, and the University of Orange. So we are a multifaceted organization that reaches out to thousands of people a year. And it's wonderful to see all of you here. So going along with ancient Unitarian tradition, which actually goes back to about the 1970s, I'm going to light the chalice. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us. So it gives me great pleasure today to introduce, share, bring on Doug Farrand, who most of you know, but if you don't know him, he is a multifaceted individual who is the co-director of the music festival that is now in its 10th year, which we're very excited about. He is the director of the HUUB, and does many other wonderful things, including speak to us today. So take it away, Doug.
I'm going to actually introduce and turn things over to Janice real briefly. Sometimes it's nice to have music at these things, but as you know, I try and be very open-minded about music, but I sometimes get grumpy about music. But I've never ever been grumpy about Janice's music. And the acoustics in this room are really good, and Janice plays a really nice banjo. So I'm going to ask Janice to play a song for us, and I'm going to ask her to play it twice. So she'll play it, and then maybe if we hold our applause until after the second time. Unless that's really weird for you.
No, it's fine. This is a sing-along. You guys all know it. If you don't know that, I'm sure you'll pick it up real quick, but yeah, that's fine. Let me take this one. That's so hard to do. There's a dark and troubled side of life. There's a bright and sunny side too. Though we meet with the darkness and strife, the sunny side we also may view. Keep on sunny side, always on sunny side. Keep on sunny side of life. You guys can sing along. You can have it every day. It will brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of life. The storm and its fury break today, crushing hopes we cherish so dear. Storm and cloud will in time pass away. The sun will shine brightly and clear. Keep on sunny side, always on sunny side. Keep on sunny side of life. I hear you guys. It will help you every day. It will brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of life. Let us greet with the song of hope each day. Though the moments be cloudy or fair, let us trust in our faith always. That will keep us away from despair. Keep on sunny side, always on sunny side. Keep on sunny side of life. It will help you every day. It will brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of life. There's a dark and troubled side of life. There's a bright and a sunny side too. Though we meet with the darkness and strife, sunny side we also may view. Keep on sunny side, always on sunny side. Keep on sunny side of life. It will help you every day. It will brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of life. Though the storm and its fury break today, crushing hopes that we cherish so dear. Storm and cloud will in time pass away. Sun will shine brightly and clear. Keep on sunny side, always on sunny side. Keep on sunny side of life. It will help you despair. Alright, last time. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help you every day. It will brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of life.
Great. All right. Bring this up here. Does that sound? It seems horrendously loud for the people on Zoom. Is that okay? That's okay. Okay. Great. And I have some notes. Which belies my lack of preparation. And some photographs because it's really nice to use our eyes. Let me see how we do this. I think now all the people can see the thing, but we can't see the people, which makes it difficult. Oh, I can see the people down here. Can you guys see the photograph of the glass of water? Yeah, okay, great. Great. Okay, so today, I'm giving the Faith+Works. Ramadan starts on Tuesday, which is relevant because I observe Ramadan. I've been observing the fast for 15 years now. And I bring it up because the last time I gave one of these it was in the middle of Ramadan, except it was in August or July or something. And we sat in it was a similar sized crowd. We sat in a circle in the front here and just sat in silence for about 50 minutes. Slightly different approach. I'm not going to do that today. Maybe you'll wish we did at the end of it, we'll see. Anyway, so I bring that up because today I want to talk about practicing. And why are we going to talk about practice? We're going to talk about practice because we've been trying to figure out. There's a lot of conversations at the moment about what the HUUB is doing and what all the people here are doing and about the role of the congregation. And this idea of practice is kind of the framework that I bring to all of this, and it's a sort of a framework that I make sense of my life with. So we're going to talk about practice, and I'm going to use it as an opportunity to indulge and share some of the strange things that I do on the day-to-day. But I'm also going to use it as an opportunity for us to look at some of the practices that we cultivate here at the HUUB, and for us together to think through how those practices change the world. Darcy mentioned that this place has long been associated with some notion of social activism, but how actually the thing that's most important is how that practice changes us, and how that's really critical. And then we'll end thinking about our little congregation here and what we're trying to practice and why, what's the other question there? And like what the congregation is or means now for those of us that are using it as a vehicle for practicing. Anyway, it's Ramadan, I already spoke about that. It's important because this is sort of what I grew up with. I think this is a little bit why I think about practicing a lot. There are two kinds of forms of practice that are like really salient for me in my childhood. One was coming from my mother's faith. She belongs to a group called HUUB, which is a spiritual organization that was founded in Indonesia in the 1930s, 1940s. And despite a pretty strict adherence to like not proselytizing at all, no one will ever try and convince you to join HUUB. It has spread across the globe over the past few years. It came to England in the 1950s through a Gurdjieff conference. Gurdjieff was like a spiritual thinker and worker. It was very popular, and my grandparents were sort of spiritually curious, seeking people, so they were into Gurdjieff for a while, and then at this Gurdjieff conference they ended up getting in touch with these folks from this group called HUUB. Anyway, so of course, because it's there's a lot to talk about there, which I'm not going to talk about today, but because it's founded in Indonesia, it was of course founded by folks who were Muslim. And although it's not a religion, it's not a set of teachings, it is a sort of a practice that is open to anyone. But because of its roots in Indonesia, it was often suggested that super members could partake in Ramadan, and the sort of structures of Ramadan being a particularly beneficial. It's like a good way to fast. There's a lot in it that works. It's not too severe, but it is also quite hard, etc., etc., etc. But there's also in Subud the sort of like core practice, which I guess is similar. You know, you might think of it as a sort of a prayer or a service. Like it doesn't quite fit. It's not quite a prayer practice. It's not quite a service, etc., etc. But the sort of gathering. The thing that you do in Subud is called latihan, which is also the Indonesian word for practice. That was always very private. As I say, they're not into proselytizing. You can't go to a latihan if you haven't joined already. But the fasting was very prevalent, very, very prominent for me. It was like once a year. You know, it's like all of a sudden Dad was cooking for a month. It's like a significant drop in the quality of food we were consuming. Sorry, Dad. I do love his liver casserole and omelets, but you can only eat liver casserole and omelets so many times in a month. Anyway, so it was sort of present for me early on. The other kind of practice that was present, of course, was my trumpet, which is in this case over here. I was going to subject you to some gnarly sounds today, but we're kind of running late, so we're going to cut that bit out. But with the trumpet, obviously, musical instrument is a way that a lot of children are introduced to the idea of practice. It's sort of a chore. I remember sort of like intentionally playing a game with myself as a child that I would forget the definition of minutes and seconds. So if my parents said, go do 5 minutes of trumpet practice, I'd go upstairs and I'd count to 5 with my trumpet and then pretend I'd done my practice. Obviously, that changed as I got older. I got into it a little bit more. And the sort of point that I wanted to drive home a little bit here is that you know, growing up with the trumpet and practicing on the instrument sort of cements this idea that we practice something to get better at it. But as later in life I've come into you know, the music I make now, which is distinctly experimental, it sort of has pushed me into this understanding that it's healthier and more generative if you have a more kind of open valence as to what the change.
I just want to say, I don't think the people on Zoom can see you.
They might have. Can you see me? I mean, you can see the picture, which is more important. Which reminds me, there's another picture of the trumpet.
All right. Great.
That's okay. Oops. Okay, anyway, should I stand on the other side?
Aaron moved it, but you can move it to where you are now. I think that's good.
Okay, so yeah, it's sort of, you know, you stay open to the kind of change that the practice engenders in you, and there's a lot of ways it can change. There's sort of a point in my practicing. I stopped playing the trumpet for about 10 years, ironically, starting when I went to music school, and then it continued until 2017. And then I started playing again, and it was just sort of very striking to come back to it after a period of being away, and the fact that it is much less about music now, and it's sort of like, for me, a practice about the feet and about the lungs and breathing. And part of how I practice the trumpet these days is I play music by Hildegard von Bingen, who's a 11th century nun and mystic, and connects, have like many years been thinking about doing a Faith+Works about Hildegard von Bingen, and maybe that's the next one. I won't play any today, but I found this on the internet, which I thought was sort of amusingly apropos. this is about Hildegard, although I think, you practice reading and you practice praying and you practice gardening. And, sometimes you have an ecstatic vision, which is not maybe what you're working towards, but it's sort of, what we're starting to get to. I was going to play some pedal tones on the trumpet because that's what I'm playing for you now, but we'll save that for the end if there's time. Let's see. Some other I'm also thinking about practice a lot at the moment because I'm studying Spanish, so I'm practicing my language every day. And what that made me think of is some years ago, in 2020, when I was first sort of flirting with the idea of trying to learn Spanish, a friend of mine who's a Spanish speaker and speaks very good English, they were like, I'm trying to learn French and Spanish, and they said I should too. And when I said Spanish is more than enough, their comment was, you have to like break your English, which I also sort of appreciated as this sort of like just being open to the ways in which the language learning and this practice changes the way you relate even to your mother tongue, and sort of like expanded the sort of like the sense of like what we're practicing for. I think. Oh yeah, I'll talk about this really quickly. This is Marley and I's ketubah, which is the Jewish wedding contract. It's difficult to read here, but it's sort of, it's some, this frame of practice is something that has been prevalent for me for a long time, just in sort of how you're living and who you're living with, and it's, it was fun to sort of formalize that with Marley and be like, we love each other, and that's a kind of a practice, and we live together, and so now how do we like codify our sort of commitment to each other's practices? I'm going to get to that in a second. I'll keep the ketubah there. Just as a final little indulgence while we're sticking with sort of my sphere of activity here, I wanted to share another piece of music. So I had wrote a score in 2018 for my friend Ryan Packard and I I didn't actually know Ryan and I were going to do it. I'm a composer, I make scores. I wrote a text score in 2018, and this has also been a prevalent part of my practice over the last few years. I'm going to change over here. So I made this score. Can the people on Zoom still see the screen? It's different now. Great. Oh, but I need to share audio for this one. Bear with me. Here's the mouse. Here we go. But now where did that go? Here it is. Oh, but I didn't.
You can click the share.
Yeah. Share sound.
There you go.
Up here. Okay, now the people on Zoom can see the thing again. Yeah, great. So I made this score, and it's not important to read it, but it was a score for two people. One of them has a stone and one of them has a cassette tape. And they might not be in the same place, but at the same time, wherever they are, the score is basically to take the stone or to take the cassette tape and to grind it down into a small pile of dust. And so I wrote this in 2018, and there's a caveat in the score that you can take a break. You don't have to do this continuously. You can take breaks of 5 minutes or 7 weeks or 9 days or 5 years, however long it takes. But there is a caveat that you've got to complete it within your lifetime. And I was on a retreat when I wrote this, and I tried to get some people to play it with me, and they said, no way. But then my friend Ryan, who takes practicing as seriously as I do, was really into it. So in 2019, Ryan and I started. You can see, I think, if we fast forward this a little bit. These are our performances between February 6, 2020, March 1st, 2019, which was an amusing one because it was 9:24 in the evening. I don't remember what day it was, but obviously I was getting ready for bed early. I was in my pajamas. And Ryan calls me and he said, do you want to do the piece? And so we do the piece together for about 5 minutes, and then after we're finished, I say, thanks, Ryan, and then I hear about 70 people applauding on the other end of the telephone because he was in the middle of a show. Anyway, these are the times he did up until early 2021. We're still doing it. This is just a video from a performance we did as a part of a remote residency that Ryan put together. Anyway, I wanted to share this. It also sort of, it's like, what is this accomplishing? How is it starting to think about how practice changes us and changes the people that we practice with? I don't have a clear answer to that question, but I think that's fine also. Anyway, if you'll indulge me, we'll watch this performance, which is about 5 minutes. Is it playing? Now it's playing. So, when folks start talking about what they were doing during the pandemic, obviously it's a little, little complicated. Okay, let's get back to business. Anyway, so in some sense, this is sort of how I spend my days. Just going to share the screen properly again. I'm making my work and I'm fasting. Once a year at least for 30 days and 30 nights, and I'm studying my Spanish and a few other things. And so I'm a little bit predisposed to the sort of monastic structure of work and prayer and study. And when we talk with Edgar in our collective recovery meetings on Wednesdays, we sort of sometimes jokingly refer to our little operation here as a monastery, because we have the UofO free school where we study, and we have the HUUB where we do our work, and we have the congregation where we pray. And so, we don't often use that language in more public settings. We talk about the community campus. But I think there is this growing and kind of incredible shared set of practices that all of the many circles of people that are engaged within the space are working on and inhabiting every day. And it's part of what I have always found so thrilling about this place, that I can come here and I can do that. I can, scratch my cassette here and practice my trumpet in this room, but I can also participate in this kind of group practices. So I have put together a few photographs, and I figured we'd go through them, and I can share a little bit about some of the practices that I'm witness to and some of the practices that folks are participating here, and then we'll get to talking about the congregation briefly before we close. I think part of the invitation here is for each of us also to think about the sort of group practices that we participate in here, what that's meant for us in our lives, how it begins to sort of change who you are, and how that is sort of one way of understanding living, I suppose. Anyway, we'll begin. This is a photo of Janice that I took in the UofO office last year as we were preparing for the 9th Music City Festival in preparation for the 10th year of our Music City programming. So we decided to lay out on each board all the photographs from each year. So it's sort of, we're entering this year the 10th year of Music City, but also the 10th year of doing our Solidarity potlucks. And in 3 years it'll be 20 years of University of Orange. So this sort of practice of celebrating anniversaries and just using an anniversary as a time to reflect on the work we've done together. Little Briley learning how to practice the drums. We tend to the gardens and the land that we own here. We tend to the buildings. We make sure they're clean and orderly. This is Karen, Sheila, and Priscilla sorting some things in the kitchen. It's more of the same. Tony and Ernest celebrating having taken a massive amount of garbage out of the buildings. In caring for the buildings, we come across, problems we never thought we'd have to accomplish. This happens all the time. Every door has the screws just come out and they won't go back in because the wood is all rotten. So fortunately, Bill Stafford has a really refined practice of taking tiny little bamboo sticks and using wood glue to reconstitute the wood. He'll be doing a teach-in on that later this year. For those of us, in case this happens to you in your old house and you want to know how to fix it. We've learned a lot about boilers. We have one of our practices here is annually we make a $5,000 sacrifice to the boiler gods. That one, I think we might have reached, God, cross your fingers. I think we might have reached the end of the road with that one. We've learned as much as we can, and have just hired someone who knows how to deal with it. So hopefully that comes to us soon. And I think this, I love this picture, just sort of like collectively looking out for this place. And it's Tony's apartment on the 3rd floor there. Tony obviously does a lot of keeping the eyes on the street, keeping a watch over this little bit of land that allows all of this activity to happen. In the window at the moment, though, you can see Oreo, who's maybe an even better guards person than Tony. Tony once locked himself out of his apartment, and I had to climb up a very steep ladder to get in through that window to let Tony into his apartment. And Oreo tried to take my eyeballs out as I was crawling in through the window. Janice and I have been talking a lot about noticing, a sort of practice of noticing here at the HUUB. This is like a very beautiful mesh of wooden sticks that we removed from the garden, I think in the fall. In the fall, maybe, Holly, when we were undoing things. But it's like, and I was just messaging with Priscilla about this yesterday, because, you know, those of you who saw the transformation of the office over the last couple months blew all of our minds, but Priscilla's done it again. I didn't think that you could blow our minds twice in quite the same capacity, but this sort of habit of like, we do some work and we notice what happens, and then we change the work a little bit and we notice what happens. So this sort of like, we have a practice here of teaching each other how to be attentive to and notice the details and the structures and the impact of everything that we're doing. We practice weaving both literally and metaphorically. This was from a little weaving class last winter, I think, at University of Orange. This is a group photograph. I wish these were bigger. Can I make this bigger here? A little bit. This was the day after the 2020, what year is it? 2024 election. And sort of interesting to think about the cadences of our practices. We had a similar gathering after the 2016 election as well. So sort of, what's that? A practice of mourning the abysmal state of our national politics. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about in that. But people gathered. Bethany was on the Zoom, came. Kyrie came. Our team was already there. Janice came. It was just this sort of very natural thing that will come together at a difficult moment. There's a lot of people who practice music here. I talked a little bit about that from a personal level. Here's Janice playing the banjo. This is about 20 minutes before Phil got his guitar. This was like the sort of after party after our Enciende el Amor festival in 2020, when we first figured out how we do a public music festival during a pandemic. Here's Cesar practicing the guitar while a few of us practiced life drawing in a class led by Amani when she was a life drawing class that Amani led when she was a Joe Thomasberger Fellow. We have some students from Orange High School sharing their practices. This is a photograph of Camp Q-Zone, which was a youth program led by HUUB board member Quanaya, who's crouching with the kid on her back in the middle, which made me think about how a lot of these spaces are about how we're sort of creating spaces for people to connect and you know, collaborate, and how that's sort of like a way of teaching, being in practice with one another. Initially I thought, wow, great, we got a photo of the kids doing yoga, how on the nose, but they're just reading, actually. But still, I think it makes the point. And we gather for potlucks. This is our 10th year of potlucks. This is from last year sometime. Lots of smiles. Everyone's teeth is showing except for Mubaraka, which is normal. Anyway, we gather for potlucks, we share food. I also feel like these are very generative in terms of the kinds of practices that come out of them. For example, Ernest has been experimenting with his name tags. You can see this one says, hello, my name is Ernest, I ate too much and I need a nap. So it's this sort of like evolving comedic practice of Ernest. He makes a different one every month. We're also out and about a lot. These are some photographs that Priscilla took at a laundry workers' action. And to me this is in kind of like a broader, it's like connects with me to the ways in which UofO has a pedagogy of walking, which is its own kind of practice around a sort of way of being very intimately familiar with the city and with all the life of the city and the infrastructure of the city. in ways that are very, very deeply transformative. I think this was the launch of a campaign led by Salvador, who's the gentleman on the right to Molly's, next to Molly. And there's obviously Molly and I and Frank, who came out to support as well. It was very cold. Sorry. Here's some more photographs of that action. It's great to see these. This is just like an astonishing photo.
Oh, it's snowing.
And there's like it was fiercely snowing, and there's like 50 people showing up. For Salvador, for those who don't know, works at this Dollar Depot and is a member of Laundry Workers Center. He's been working at this depot for about 18 years and has never received minimum wage. And through his training in these buildings, laundry workers have a very serious practice of leadership development and cultivation. And so through his training and development, through that long practice, he's launched a campaign to sort of demand his rights, and has delivered in collaboration with the Department of Labor, has delivered a demand to his employer for minimum wage, overtime pay, days off, real basic things that he hasn't received. Door knocking, these are just some photographs of the sort of like, all of this involves walking in Orange, which I think is really an important practice for many of us here. This is a tour of Orange that UofO gave for the West Orange Library last year. This is from 2020. We spent a lot of time hanging out on the highway. I have a lot of photographs of that particular moment. More 2020 walking tours in Orange, and how we learn to sort of like understand and see the city. But for those of you who have taken a UofO walking tour, you'll know that how you understand the city changes how you understand yourself too. This is just a beautiful photo. I put that in as Brielle and Hassan at Becky's party. And then we garden. This is our very own Holly Bars, trying to desperately keep the 8-foot native perennials from attacking people that come to our property. So we're practicing tending the land and tending the gardens that we've cultivated here, and we grow some food and some flowers. And some of these folks are practicing with us all the time, some of them just once in a while. We harvest occasionally. This was some lettuce that we shared at a potluck in the early summer this past year. This is this is something that I love, was one of my own I've been practicing fermentation for some time. So I thought it would be fun if we started to try that when we have, for example, just a lot of jalapenos at the end of the season. We also learn in practicing how not to ferment food. That is a bright pink line of mold in the same jalapenos, so we threw those out. And then there are all these wise people that come here and teach us about how to practice. So this is my friend Ron, who has such an amazing kind of like electropop / drag show that I feel like he's, has some very profound insights into practice as a performer and musician. This is Dominic, who teaches us a lot about practicing, and this was his Faith+Works in 2019. And then before we pivot to the congregation, this is Margaux, who I feel who's on Zoom. Hi, Margaux, and is also one of our wise teachers about what it means to practice. As an example, this is Margaux playing flute to the vegetables that Jamie grows in her garden, and it's proof that if you practice with your vegetables, they get really big. Margaux and I, for some years, I feel like Margaux is maybe 2020 to 2023, had a practice where we would, if there was a sunset, we would send a photograph of the sunset to one another. So these are some photographs that Margaux and I shared of sunsets in those years. And out of these photographs, I don't exactly know how it happened, but we ended up making these 2 organ pieces that we performed here a couple of years ago. And Margaux and I just started a new little piece this week, where every day we take a short outside recording and a short inside recording and a short recording of a sound our respective instruments make. We don't know what will happen with them, but we're doing that for the next couple of weeks.
I'm really excited about that. That's
Me
great.
too. Okay, so yeah, it's our very own, our own bit of sky. That's looking out from my favorite rock in South Mountain Reservation, I think over Millburn, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, we're at time, but I wanted to close by saying that there's so many, it's like obviously there's a lot of people practicing here. For some months, years, I guess since 2017 when Faith+Works, our practice of Faith+Works started, we've had this question of what is the role, like with the HUUB sort of coming into its own, getting its, there's like 7 different metaphors that collided and completely paralyzed my, the HUUB getting sort of growing, moving through the difficult years of the pandemic, etc., etc. But the congregation still being here, and the sort of initial insight around the faith and the works. It's a story most of us have heard many times. It's the idea that faith without works is dead, but the congregation tries to make the opposite argument that work without faith is dead as well. And I think some things have been very clear and have been clearly emerging for us, like the congregation is the spiritual anchor of all of these practices and of this space. And thanks to the leadership of our lead minister, Edgar Rivera Colon, we've come to understand this space as a place for what he calls the collective discernment of spirit around all the work that we're doing, whether that is sending photographs of sunsets to one another, or trying to organize around gentrification and displacement, or trying to build connection and community over, lemon bars and fermentation experiments. But this is a place that we sort of collectively gather to understand better and to have a practice of discerning together the sort of spiritual path of the work. But something we've been grappling with recently, which is where I'm going to close and we're going to transition to the next little ending of today's Faith+Works, is what it means to be a member of this congregation. A couple of years ago we adopted the name the Faith+Works Congregation of Orange, a distinct pivot away from use of the word church. Even before that happened in 2018, Molly and I joined the congregation with a few of our fellow University of Orange and HUUB colleagues. And as we've been thinking about this thing around membership and around what is the congregation, it's sort of for me been grappling also with what that means. I'm very allergic to churches in general. As you can see, not adept to ritual or whatever. And so I've been thinking through, I think I joined because this was something quite different. It's just become a different thing, and it is a different thing. And so trying to understand what the congregation is and what being a member here entails. And so to end, in Grand Club last week, we were thinking this through and landed on sort of 3 key things that I think is what it means to be a member here and what we're practicing in the congregation. One, obviously, is we're a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and the seventh principle is respect for the interconnected web of all life. And so the faith being the first principle, and the faith here is the sense that the universe is really big and that it is inclusive of everything, and that we're a part of that everything. The second thing is the practice, and this idea of practicing being in good relation with that universe, this idea of cousinship, referenced in the Substack that Mindy sent out earlier this week. And the third thing is that it's the congregation that owns this land and these buildings, and so it is kind of understanding the small ring of the congregation as being the stewards of the 135-year legacy and of this place that is making, by our practice of stewardship, it sort of enables all the other practices of stewardship that we saw in the screen, in the slideshow, and many more things. Of course, there's a tiny fraction of all the practices that are happening here. Many of us are witness to them, many that we're not witness to. Anyway, that's sort of my cobbled set of reflections. Someone's calling again and again. I know who that is. It's someone who's coming to see the space. But before we end, we have our membership book here today, and I think at least one person in our gathered audience who's very deeply involved in the practices, as you witnessed, because there are a lot of photographs, is going to sign our membership book. And I don't think we have any real established protocol for doing this, but maybe some of my fellow board members would like to
I
suggest.
think the president shakes your hand and congratulates you.
Oh. Okay, cool. So,
Somebody
Janice, do you want to come and sign the book?
You're the president. Yes, I know. Moving with gravitas the president would have.
Maybe we should take a picture.
Sorry? Oh, yeah. Totally. We have a lot of those.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now?
Well, we should just put it back here.
Oh my God.
You want to write this down?
Am I writing?
I think we'll just write the date, because this is like previous days.
Sure.
It's like an altar call.
It's Sunday, February 15th, 2026. And I'm passing the pen to Thomas. Thank you. So I'm going to take a picture. Welcome. We are happy to have you. Thank you.
Welcome, Janice. It's great to have you with our group. Officially.
Heidi, you're on Zoom. Do you want to digitally sign the book today, or do you want to do it when you can be here in person?
Thank you, Doug. Thanks, everyone. It's so good to see you. I would rather sign it in person. So that'll be in 2 months, I think. The hip gets replaced in a month, and in another month or 6 weeks, I should be able to be there. So I would rather do it in person in the spring.
Great.
I love Zoom, but it's not perfect for everything.
Right.
Thank you.
It is very loud.
So are we ready to?
I think we should take a photograph with Susan and Janice
I got pictures of them signing, but maybe.
together, and
Yeah.
then we can pose and have some tea cookies.
What if people have questions for you, Ben?
But we can talk about questions over tea and cookies.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. Susan, do you want to, Janice? I'll just take a photo with you guys and
In front of the chalice, yeah. And the book,
Okay.
Okay, Janet, print the box.
Right.
I love it, yes.
Oh, look at
Is
that.
this a good picture? That's great.
Okay.
Okay, say,
You do.
respecting the web of
Six,
technology.
Respecting the independent web.
Cheese, respecting.
Yeah. Janice is like, get this over with. Okay. Thanks everyone. I think that's what
Also, thank you for signing. This is a historic book, and many wonderful and interesting and important people have belonged to this church over its many years. That's another story for another time.
Yeah.
But you are joining an esteemed crew. So let's wrap it up. Thank you, Doug, who has fled yet again.
Doug had a slide, but do we want to ask our dear friends on Zoom if they have any comments in closing, since they won't be able to ask questions over Zoom? We can ask Doug, but if you have any comments, turn that down.
Yeah, I'd like to just make a quick comment. I wish Heidi the best with her hip. I am right now recovering from a new knee, so I know what that feels like. We have all kinds of body parts that are coming due now for those of us of a certain age. So,
Keep it clean, Frank. Keep it clean.
but I wanted to mention those in the last photograph that Doug showed of Works and the windows. That's probably the first fully completed renovation as we start to work on our capital campaign and refurbishing the building and making it more supportive of what it is that we're doing. So I'm really pleased about that, and the company that did it did a great job, and we're moving this project along, and it's just it's a signature of what we've got to look forward to. So good work for everybody and on everybody's part. So thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Well said. Yes.
All right.
So before we close, just to want to remind people, tomorrow is our February Solidarity potluck, which is in the parish hall tomorrow from 6 to 8, and there's lots of fun things. I guess the Lunar New Year.
And the Thomas Edison Film Festival.
So
they're streaming have some short films.
And
And we're making cards for immigrant families in detention that Carolina's going to come.
yeah, so lots of good activities and fun and good food always. So I think it's time to, we're going out that way to some cookies and tea.
Yes, we are.
Okay, excellent. So a quick closing of the chalice. I thought the chalice looked beautiful, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
so
really
this,
good.
the candle, it's stunning. In our time of grief, we light a flame of sharing, the flame of ongoing life. In this time, when we search for understanding and serenity in the face of loss and hardship, we light this sign and now we extinguish it as we continue, after we leave this room, our quest for truth, meaning, and community. So, thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody on Zoom.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
day, recovery.
Cool.